Okay, welcome to the how to deploy WordPress on a fresh Linode instance. I've already signed up for Linode, and this is my first fresh instance. The cheapest price currently, as of January 1st, 2016, is a $10 per month instance. And what this is going to give you is a full Linux platform and virtual hosting solution that, for my purposes, provides a high level of performance at a very affordable cost. If you already have hosting, then you're going to want to skip this section of the tutorial on my bigger project with the goal of setting up a very affordable e-commerce WordPress platform. Now, for those of you that are looking to do things a little more hands-on, this tutorial is for you. Now, when you come in to Linode, it's at linode.com. If you've never used it before, this tutorial will be helpful for how to set things up. It's a little more advanced, but at the same time, as we walk through the video, I'll show you every single step necessary to get your first Linux platform up and running on this service. Now, when you log in, you'll have access to your Linodes, which is a collection of servers. And I've already created a new Linode called Invoking New. And we're going to go ahead and deploy an image, which is basically installing the operating system onto your server. Linode has looks like about 30, 25 various platforms you can choose from, or distributions. I like Ubuntu, and it's very popular, obviously. If you're having trouble choosing which one to use, don't make the mistake of choosing the latest version, because you have very limited support for future upgrades. And actually what can happen is that the platform will require migration down the road and cause you a lot of headaches for maintenance. For instance, 6 months, a year down the road of having the latest version, it's no longer supported, and you might not have an upgrade path to the latest platform. That is why this LTS, which stands for long-term support, is the preferred deployment distribution for Ubuntu for your production environments. Now, that's just my preference. Others might recommend Debian, Fedora. My brother certainly loves Slackware. However, I have found this to be the easiest platform, and I highly recommend it. I'm going to come in and choose to use all the space and set up a 512 meg swap disk. Just go ahead and choose those settings. You're not going to have any penalties for doing that. And then the root password that's currently in place since I've rebuilt this image. I'm going to go ahead and deploy that. Now what's happening here in the background, this is previous data here, I deleted things, but now it's going to go ahead and build that out for me. Looks like it takes about 30 seconds to a minute to get things going, so we'll be right back. All right. So what it's done is gone ahead and deployed the Ubuntu 14.04 long-term support. It is actually up and running and ready to go now. It took about 15 seconds to complete. And the next thing we can do is just click here to boot it up. Shows it's booting here. Now we can hop over. Get rid of that. Get rid of that. All right. Now what happens is, actually I'm going to have to clear this out. So what happened was the old server, I had cache with SSH, and so you need to clear that out. And for security reasons, I blanked this part out, but just went in and removed it from the known hosts file. Now I should be able to access it again. Okay. The first thing we're going to want to do is lock this sucker down. It's important to know that you don't want to maintain root access and configure everything under the root account. So the first thing we want to do basically create a new user that we can then give appropriate access to, but essentially not the root account. And we do that simply by using the add user command, and we'll call the account demo. Go ahead and give it a password. I think I typoed that. Oh. You can go ahead and create most of the other details blank. Not most, all of them. And now we have the user. Next step we want to do is grant root access to that demo account. And we're good to go. Okay. So now I can actually, what I did, I went back to my local machine, and now I'm going to log in at the demo account. Perfect. Okay, now that it's a fresh instance, we are going to want to do some basic updates. So run the sudo apt-get update. Which basically updates all the repository and package information locally for the server, and it'll allow us to install packages and update those packages properly using the package manager for Ubuntu. So we've updated the packages. Now we're going to install Apache, which is, for those that don't know, hopefully you do by now, but it's the web server. And basically, in 3 minutes, we have a fresh server online with an IP address that you can access on the internet. There you go. Apache is now running. We verified it. It's good to go. By the way, you can find your IP address underneath the remote access tab in Linode. Right here, among other places. Oops. Okay, but not so fast. Just because we have Apache running doesn't mean we're ready to move forward quite yet without a few other things. We're going to need MySQL installed and a few other components, as well as, of course, PHP for the language that runs WordPress. But let's go ahead and get MySQL installed now. Sudo apt-get install MySQL server with PHP 5 extensions. Go ahead and run that. You can see the server is extremely fast. I'm going to go ahead and create a MySQL root password for the root user. Boom. All right, there's a couple other scripts to run after the completion, and that is the MySQL install DB. We run that through sudo MySQL _install _DB. That creates the directories and the structure on the server. And then also there is a security lockdown script that we want to run, the sudo MySQL _secure _installation. Ask for the current password, You want to change it? No, I've already said it. Remove the anonymous users? Yes. We're going to disable root from being able to log in. And we're going to remove the test database and reload permissions. Just like that. Now MySQL is in the best practice secure state for a production server as far as standard production settings go. Of course, this is not a fully protected walkthrough. Things like Ubuntu firewall are already built in. However, there's many books written on how to better secure your system. However, this is a great out-of-the-box setting. Additionally, you can turn on backups at Linode and easily get back to yesterday's setting if anything bad does happen to you. However, I would never advocate for 100% security, but these are pretty good getting started steps. All right, next thing we want to do, we have MySQL running. We want to get PHP installed with a few extensions. Which is sudo apt-get install php5, lib apache 2 mod php5, and the php encrypt extensions. php5 encrypt extensions. Okay. We actually have PHP running now, installed, excuse me. It is not technically a server, so it doesn't run. It runs through a component like Apache. What we want to do now is just double check our preferred configuration for the Apache processing on the order that it manages files. And what we'll see here is that these go in order of files that it finds in the directory. So the first thing, if index.html is in the directory, it's going to load that first, and then in order. So we actually want to move index.php to the front, just for best practices with WordPress. All right, just to prove that it's working, there's our Apache. We want to just test it just to be 100% sure. What we can do is create a index.php file here and just simply run the php info command, which is as simple as it gets. But this allows us to run the processor through Apache. Oops. I forgot to, permission-wise, I can't access that, so which is good. So what I had to do was sudo to a permission that would allow me to create that. Now I'm going to go ahead and reload that. Oh, okay, so because I changed the server setting, I did not restart Apache like I should have if I wanted those settings to take place. So right now, it's actually a good example because there is two files in the directory. Index.html is being preferred because even though I changed it, I didn't reload Apache. So let's do that real quick. That just reloads the configuration settings. And there you can see the PHP info shows that PHP is running on that server now. And you're good to go. Piece of cake, right? So let's get to the good stuff. Let's start with we're basically ready to drop WordPress onto the server now. And we can do that through a few different steps, but we're going to walk through the best practice as far as the instructions I have to accomplish this. We're going to log into MySQL, and we're going to need to create basically an empty database for WordPress to install on. Create database, and WordPress, this is actually the database name, WordPress, or you can call that your company. If you're only going to have one WordPress install on this service, WordPress is pretty basic. I'm actually going to call mine demo. Then I'm going to create a user inside MySQL. So we're not going to use root. We're not allowed to log in as root. And we're going to call that WordPress user at localhost. Identified by, and the password change me. I'm going to nuke this instance after that, so if you're thinking about hacking me, you'd be wasting your time. Next, we're going to give it permissions. Oops. We call the database demo. So I'll go through that real quick. Grant all privileges on demo.asterisk, which is the database and all of its objects, to WordPress user at localhost. Okay. Best practice again. Command called flush privileges. And then we are set up with the database. MySQL is actually running now on the server. It has the account configured with the blank demo database. And just one thing to clarify, this demo, just use the database name that you use there. And if you use a different user besides WordPress user here, that's where you'd put this. You'd always want the at localhost though. All right, we're going to change over to our home directory for the demo account that I created on the server. And we're going to download the latest WordPress package using wget. And you can find that latest package always WordPress org latest tar gz. Go ahead and download that. We're going to extract it with the tar xvf. Basically extracts everything into your local directory. We're good to go. We have a nice WordPress directory. While we're here, we're going to want to run a couple other packages for the PHP extensions. I'm going to jump off. We're going to do PHP 5 GD and libssh PHP. Okay. Go into the WordPress directory, and it comes with a sample config file. It's called wp config sample. What we do is we copy that over to just wp config php, and then we're going to go ahead and edit that. Now here's where the good stuff comes in. Oops. Database name was demo for me. Use your database name. My password was changed me. Okay, so we have a WordPress system in your local folder, but it's not going to run. What you want to do is move this over to the production Apache directories. The reason we were working with it in our local folder in case we mess something up or downloading the package for security reasons. We don't necessarily want to just dump everything into that folder. It keeps things clean. But here's how we move it into the proper location. We use rsync avp Okay, great. Now we have a copy of everything in here, and actually we're ready to go. Now in theory, when we refresh this, our WordPress site will be running. Beautiful. Just like that. So demo WordPress, username is going to be WordPress. We're just creating new accounts now. If you've never used WordPress before, you can change these things later. Site title, the username is going to be your first user inside WordPress. The password I have here is just auto-generated for me, and then go ahead and install WordPress. Oops. Uh-oh. Okay. And we're in just like that. You can actually see the home page. And we're good to go. I hope that was useful. Stay tuned for the next release I'm putting together, which will show you how to set up a very cost-effective, secure e-commerce site to sell your first product. Thanks for watching, and let me know if you have any questions.